The Vietnam War is one of the most documented and discussed conflicts in history. But what if the war wasn't exactly as we've been led to believe? Today, we're exposing 30 astonishing facts that will shatter everything you believed about this infamous conflict. Number 30. Did you know that the Paris peace talks, which were supposed to bring an end to the conflict, were marred by a bizarre debate over the shape of the negotiating table? You see, the U.S. and North Vietnam spent weeks arguing over whether the table should be round, square, or even rectangular, each side believing the shape would symbolize their diplomatic position. This trivial argument delayed the talks, prolonging the war. Number 29. Many Viet Cong fighters took a blood oath, promising to fight to the death for their cause. This vow was often sealed in elaborate rituals, sometimes involving the drinking of blood. These ceremonies created an unbreakable bond among the fighters, strengthening their resolve to resist the powerful U.S. military machine, no matter the cost. Number 28. During the war, a terrifying rumor spread among U.S. troops about a deadly venereal disease dubbed black syphilis. It was said to be incurable, causing men to die in horrific agony. This rumor, likely a fabrication, played on soldiers' fears, adding an extra layer of anxiety to their interactions with locals. Number 27. Underneath the jungles of Vietnam, a secret war raged in a labyrinth of tunnels. The Viet Cong created these underground networks to ambush and evade U.S. forces. Enter the tunnel rats, brave American soldiers who crawled into these dark booby-trap mazes with nothing but a flashlight and a pistol. Their mission was perilous, with danger lurking at every twist and turn. Number 26. Operation Northwoods, a proposed false flag operation by the U.S. government, aimed to justify military intervention in Cuba by fabricating attacks on American soil. Though it was never executed, its mere existence reveals the lengths to which some were willing to go during the Cold War era. Had it been approved, the Vietnam War's history might have taken a very different turn. Number 25. In the dense jungles of Vietnam, rumors circulated about a secret unit of soldiers dressed entirely in black, operating independently of the main forces. These men in black were said to carry out covert missions deep behind enemy lines, leaving no trace of their presence. Their existence remains unconfirmed, but the tales of their daring exploits still circulate among veterans. Number 24. Throughout the war, American soldiers would hear the sultry, taunting voice of Hanoi Hannah over the radio. She broadcasted North Vietnamese propaganda, trying to demoralize U.S. troops. But what many didn't know was that her real name was Trinh Thai Ngo, and she was actually fluent in English, having learned it from listening to American jazz. Her psychological warfare left a lasting impact on those who heard her broadcast. Number 23. The Cu Chi tunnels were not just hiding spots, they were entire underground cities. These tunnels housed hospitals, kitchens, and even theaters where Viet Cong fighters could rest and plan their next moves. The U.S. attempted to destroy these networks, but the tunnels were so well constructed that they often remained intact, hiding their secrets beneath the jungle floor. Number 22. The infamous Ho Lo prison, dubbed the Hanoi Hilton by American POWs, was notorious for its brutal conditions and psychological torture. However, what's lesser known is that some POWs were secretly organizing to resist their captors. Despite constant surveillance, these prisoners communicated through coded messages, determined to keep hope alive in the face of unimaginable hardship. Number 21. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was not a single path, but a complex web of routes running through Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Despite relentless bombing by U.S. forces, the trail remained operational, supplying North Vietnamese troops with weapons, food, and reinforcements. The trail's elusive nature baffled American commanders, as it seemed to regenerate after every attack, like a snake slipping through their grasp. Number 20. In Laos, the CIA trained and led a covert army of Hmong soldiers to fight the North Vietnamese forces. This secret war wasn't acknowledged by the U.S. government for years, despite its significant impact. As these guerrillas fought in treacherous jungles, their existence was kept so secret that even the soldiers didn't fully know who they were fighting for. Number 19. In the dead of night, U.S. troops would sometimes hear a single strange explosion, a phantom blooper from a mysterious grenade launcher. The source was never identified, leaving soldiers on edge, wondering if it was friend, foe, or even a ghostly apparition haunting the battlefield. This strange phenomenon added a psychological dimension to the physical dangers of the war. Number 18. Unlikely as it seems, pop music played a role in the Vietnam War. Songs like "We Gotta Get Out of This Place" by the Animals became anthems for soldiers longing for home. The Viet Cong, too, used music as a psychological weapon, blaring propaganda tunes from loudspeakers. The battlefield was not just one of bullets and bombs, but of melodies that resonated with the hearts and minds of all involved. Number 17. The U.S. military's use of Agent Orange, a chemical defoliant, left a toxic legacy that persists to this very day. Sprayed over vast areas of Vietnam, it was meant to strip the jungle of cover for the Viet Cong, but the chemical didn't just destroy plants. It caused severe health issues, including cancer and birth defects, among both Vietnamese civilians and U.S. veterans. The shadow of this war crime still looms large. Number 16. Firebase Ripcord, a remote U.S. outpost, was the site of one of the last major battles of the Vietnam War. After a bloody 23-day siege, U.S. forces withdrew, but some claim that a phantom patrol remained behind. Reports of mysterious movements and radio transmissions persisted even long after the base was abandoned. Number 15. War correspondents risked their lives to bring the Vietnam War's brutal realities to the world. But some, like Australian journalist Wilfred Burchett, were accused of being spies. Burchett was one of the first to report on the effects of Agent Orange, and his controversial reports led to accusations that he was working for the enemy. Number 14. Deep within the jungles of Vietnam, the Viet Cong constructed underground hospitals where they treated wounded soldiers in secrecy. These makeshift facilities were equipped with basic medical supplies and staffed by dedicated doctors and nurses who operated under extreme conditions. The existence of these hospitals remained a closely guarded secret, and their discovery by U.S. forces often led to fierce battles as the Viet Cong fought to protect their lifeline. Number 13. In a bizarre twist of fate, some American prisoners of war refused to be released. During Operation Homecoming in 1973, a small group of POWs chose to stay behind in Vietnam, citing a variety of reasons, including fear of returning to civilian life or loyalty to their captors. Their decision baffled U.S. officials and remains one of the most puzzling episodes of the war. Number 12. The Battle of Khe Sanh was one of the bloodiest and most prolonged sieges of the Vietnam War. The U.S. Marine base was under constant bombardment for 77 days, and when the fighting finally ended, it was said that the spirits of the fallen soldiers haunted the area. Veterans have reported seeing ghostly apparitions and hearing strange sounds at the site, making Khe Sanh a place of both historical significance and supernatural mystery. Number 11. In 1970, President Nixon ordered a covert invasion of Cambodia to destroy North Vietnamese sanctuaries. The operation was kept secret from the American public and Congress, leading to widespread outrage when it was eventually revealed. The invasion escalated the war and contributed to the instability in Cambodia, eventually leading to the rise of Khmer Rouge and a genocide that claimed millions of lives. Number 10. The Montagnards, indigenous people of Vietnam's Central Highlands, played a crucial role as allies of the U.S. during the war. They developed a secret language using whistles, bird calls, and hand signals to communicate in the jungle without being detected by the enemy. This code allowed them to pass messages and coordinate attacks with U.S. forces, often under the nose of the Viet Cong. Number 9. Lieutenant Commander Michael Scott Spicer was shot down over Iraq during the Gulf War, but his story has roots in the Vietnam War. It was believed for years that he had survived and was being held in Vietnam. The mystery of his fate became a symbol of the unresolved POW MIA issue, as families clung to hope that their loved ones might still be alive in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Number 8. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. is a powerful tribute to the lives lost in the war. but some believe it carries a curse. Visitors have reported strange occurrences, from feeling an overwhelming sense of dread to witnessing ghostly figures near the wall. Some veterans even claim that the memorial has brought them bad luck, attributing personal misfortunes to the lingering spirits of their fallen comrades. Number 7. Decades after the Vietnam War ended, thousands of dog tags belonging to missing American soldiers began to surface in Vietnam. These tags were often found in markets and sold as souvenirs to tourists. The discovery of these tags raised troubling questions about the fate of the soldiers who wore them and whether they might still be alive somewhere in the jungles of Southeast Asia, waiting to be found. Number 6. Long Binh Jail, a U.S. military prison in Vietnam, was notorious for its harsh conditions and violent riots. But after the war, it became known for something even more disturbing. Soldiers who spent time there reported seeing ghostly apparitions and hearing unexplained noises at night. Some believe that the spirits of those who suffered and died in the jail still haunt its abandoned grounds, seeking justice for their mistreatment. Number 5. In a grim mystery that baffled U.S. forces, the bodies of dead Viet Cong soldiers were often found without their feet. It was later discovered that this was a deliberate tactic by the Viet Cong to prevent their comrades' bodies from being identified, thus keeping their families and fellow soldiers from losing hope. The macabre practice added to the psychological warfare that characterized the conflict. Number 4. During the Vietnam War, there were numerous reports of entire platoons disappearing without a trace. One of the most famous cases involved a group of South Vietnamese soldiers who vanished while on patrol in the jungle. Despite extensive searches, no trace of the soldiers was ever found. Some believe they were captured by the Viet Cong, while others think they were swallowed by the dense jungle, lost forever to history. Number 3. In 1972, actress Jane Fonda visited North Vietnam, where she was photographed sitting on an anti-aircraft gun used to shoot down American planes. The controversial act earned her the nickname Hanoi Jane and made her a symbol of anti-war sentiment. However, what many didn't know is that Fonda secretly met with American POWs during her visit, offering them a glimmer of hope in their darkest hours. Number 2. In the Mekong Delta, tales of a ghost army began to circulate among U.S. soldiers. These apparitions were said to appear at night, marching silently through the swamps before disappearing into the mist. Some believed they were spirits of fallen Viet Cong fighters, while others thought they were hallucinations brought on by the stress of war. The weird sightings added an otherworldly dimension to the already terrifying experience of combat. And number 1. In an attempt to demoralize the Viet Cong, the U.S. military launched Operation Wandering Soul. They played weird recordings of ghostly voices, meant to mimic the souls of dead soldiers through loudspeakers in the jungle. The psychological operation was based on the Vietnamese belief that if a person's body is not properly buried, their soul will wander the earth forever. The unsettling tactic had mixed results, but it added a supernatural element to the psychological warfare of the conflict.